I'm still one of Star's longest living residents, 92 years old. My dad sold the farm in Nebraska and then we moved to Idaho. I moved to Star with my family in 1946. A segment of the Oregon Trail came through Star. Star, Idaho is a special place because of the work ethic and the people. We as seniors want to now share our stories.
I don't know, it was just a small town. Didn't really have much here. There was probably 300 people. We were, in some ways, considered the armpit of Ada County.
I have a niece that lives in Alaska, and she called me, I think it was about 3 years ago, and said she heard on the news that Star, Idaho was the fastest growing city there was in the United States.
Supposedly, what I heard from more than one old-timer was how Star got its name. And there was a prominent outhouse on the outskirts of town that had a star. You know, everybody had a half moon or a ventilation in the door. And there was an outhouse on the outskirts of town with a star on the door. And they used it as a landmark. I mean, it was go as far as that that outhouse with the star. And that's how, supposedly.
Years ago, before the dams, the Boise River flooded all the way to the foothills. Mom and Dad turned around and told us stories of they'd have to take a rowboat from the foothills and come all the way down here to take care of the cows and everything.
When I grew up, we got called school. We go pick cherries, we pick prunes for McBurney. We helped the farmer.
I played basketball, I played volleyball, we went roller skating, we skipped school and went ice skating with clamp on ice skates, oh my. And dance, oh my goodness, dance. I don't know whether people still dance like that or not, but I used to be wild about dancing.
I always liked to be out in the barn helping Dad milk the cows. My mother didn't like that very well. I also drove a tractor when they were hauling hay.
There's a guy between here and Eagle named Kwong. He raised strawberries.
You were supposed to be 12 before, so I couldn't get a job with them because I was only 11 at the time. But I could go and pick on Sally's ticket. The next year I was 12, so all us girls went and picked strawberries for Kwong's. And that was how we made our extra money. You didn't make money around home. You got to live there. That's you had your responsibilities.
I was teaching people how to drive cars when I was 12 years old. I'd take them out in the foothills in my brother's pickups and the cars, teach them how to drive. That was probably one of the big things, was swimming in the river. We used to call it the ledge, which was where the old bridge used to go across, and it had an abutment on it that we'd dive off of that. You'd never even tell your parents where you were going. You'd just disappear for 2 or 3 days and go down there, and we'd catch fish and cook them and eat them and sleep in sleeping bags and all that. That's been lost a long time ago with kids being able to do anything like that.
I was thinking of the things that made Star a close-knit little community. And one of them was the volunteer fire department. And it was started by Eldon Ross. But Eldon was sort of the backbone of the community. He ran the Chevron service station, which was right across the street from where the fire department is now. And when there was a fire, he would run across and turn on the loud siren so the volunteers could hear a mile away.
Our daughters, they wanted milk cows. That was in the winter of 1972. The coldest winter of record. The damn milking machine would freeze up every morning. I'd have to go out with a torch and thaw it out so they could go out and milk their cows.
My grandfather, like I was saying, started the store in 1908. I think all in all, the community probably wouldn't even be here if we hadn't had the store and that, because that was pretty much the only thing that was here.
Hazel dressed the chickens. I mean, they were workers, and they were good folks.
They had a really lovely home in Star. It's either during the Depression or right after the war. They filled their house, their new house, with grain. They blocked off a little area for their living and filled it with grain for their store. The generation before me were very innovative. They had to be to survive.
We had charge accounts for all the farmers and stuff where they wouldn't pay the dang things until once a year when they finally got everything in. Back to this day, we still have some of those old accounts still on the books.
There was a mink farm right outside of town, Moyle's Mink Farm. I would work on the mink farm. They had a machine, a cone-shaped machine, and then you'd spread the pelt over and clip it on, and then there was a machine that vacuumed the mink fat into barrels, and I fleshed mink.
My folks had a mint still. The first day I came home from work, I said, okay, what does it taste like? They had a separating tank there, and said, well, stick your finger in there. So I stuck it all the way up to there and stuck it in my mouth. It was over 100 yards to the well and such. And it just takes away your breath. I mean, it's so strong.
You know, when the weeds start growing, my husband says, well, let's go weed the... I go walk out there and I go, it's a mile down the end of this road. No, I'm not pulling these weeds. And so then you have to hire a crew to pull weeds, and then all of a sudden it's like farming is expensive. That was an eye-opener.
I had milk cows. I had a grade 8 quota of 2,500 pounds of milk a day. I got up at 5 in the morning, put my shoes on and the rest of my clothes, went out in the barn, opened the barn door and turned the lights on so the cows would come off and go out and bring them all in the holding pen. Then we milked for 2 hours. Then my wife cleaned the barn up, and I went out and fed the cattle, the cows. And then I come in and ate breakfast. And at that time I hauled the milk to the creamery, so I jumped in the pickup and took 25 cans of milk to Caldwell, and I put them on the milk track, and 80 pounds of milk and 30 pounds a can. And then to come home, and if it was the summertime, set water and probably called away corn, or always something to do. It was just good old hard days, that's all it was. You made your way.
Back in those days, farmers went to each other's places and they helped the farmer harvest the crops. And the women would show up there and cook for all the farmers and such. And that's how my mom learned how to cook.
And it's really funny because where I lived, there was 4 houses hooked up to a 3/4 inch water line. And you had 8 to 10 pounds of pressure, 12 on a good day, if nobody else was using it. You couldn't have water upstairs because there wasn't enough pressure to get to the 2nd floor. So when you want to do laundry or something, you ask the neighbors, hey, can you shut off your water?
We was raised with mint. I love the smell of mint. Spearmint's really nice. Peppermint, it's a little bit more stronger and everything. But yeah, I like the smell. I like the smell of shit. I mean, used to go with a girlfriend, we'd drive by a feedlot and turn around and she said, God, what's that smell? And I said, money and everything. That's what it was all about and everything. You walk into a barn like I have here and you smell the horses. There's nothing like it. Now, a lot of people would turn around and say, you are nuts, you know. But if you're raised on a farm or such, yeah.
The reason people thought Star was so bad, it really smelled bad. We had the mink farm out here.
We had a hog farm on the other side of Emmett Highway, feedlot just east of there, then the chicken farm here. So when the wind was right, it was pretty powerful here in town.
Mink farm, oh my God, that place stunk. It was terrible. Those guys would come for lunch down to the store, and you'd have to follow them around with a can of Lysol. Oh, it was disgusting. In fact, our odors around town, we had a hog farm over on Highway 16. Behind the hog farm, we had an Idaho feedlot. Whenever the wind had changed direction, everybody had always complained that how bad it stunk, and we'd always say it smells like money to us.
Fresh smell of cut hay. Somebody's farming. And where we're at now, we can still smell that cut hay. There are people still cutting hay.
My favorite smell is cow poop in a milking barn.
We started the egg farm, the 40,000 chicken egg farm. We bought the Christian church's 3-story church over there and moved it over. And you had 3 stories worth of chickens there. And sometimes I'd go up on the top and look out during the 4th of July and see the fireworks going on.
In junior high and high school, I worked for Willis Egg Farm. And they'd hand you 5 chickens in this hand, 5 in this hand. You have to walk over to the other thing and, work them. They'd cut their beaks, top beak off and vaccinate them. And you do that, that'd take several hours to move all them chickens. And then after they move the chickens, they clean out the barns. That was the job. That's really bad stuff to clean out. He paid us $1 an hour, which was pretty good.
Oh God, the egg farm. I used to live across from the egg farm. Flies were so bad, it was amazing. I think back in those days it was like 12 cents a dozen or something.
I've lived on this place since 1960. And when we bought this place, I milked 2 cows by hand. And I would go to the sale and buy calves. And I sold milk to everybody in the neighborhood.
Buck bales for Floyd Moyer, I worked for him, and he paid a penny a bale. But by the end of the day, you made like $8-9, which is still good. You really had a lot of money when you bought an ice cream bar. They cost a dime.
I figured good wages by sewing all our clothes. My fruit room had 600 jars of, I provided the meat and the milk and the butter and the eggs and the vegetables. Then I could go down to the river bridge, and that hit a bump on the river bridge, and it would always spill out. There was always onions down there. And I'd just take a little walk and go down and pick up my winter onions.
When we were kids, we used to walk a quarter of a mile to the highway to catch the bus. We could stand there for 30 minutes, and if we had 10 cars pass us, we was doing really good. Now, you stand there for 30 minutes and 400 cars pass you. So it's changed a lot.
Country living is much better to raise kids, 100%.
It's over with. For family farms like this one, you won't see when I started or what I did. That'll never happen again. You know what I mean? Did the best we could with nothing. I'm gonna tell you, with nothing. Married with nothing and worked all those years.
I miss the bob whites and the quail and the things that used to be so common, pheasants, and like I say, the wildlife. And I don't see frogs and toads and snakes and stuff in my garden like I used to.
Back then, people helped each other. Nowadays, they could care less. I've known people that live next to each other and never know their names and don't want to know their names and such. I know it's a busy world. It's all in computers and such, and it's too bad.
I get here about 3:30 in the morning. I wake up, might as well be at work. And people keep saying, when you're going to retire? Well, I'm going to retire when I find somebody who's going to take care of Star as good as I want it taken care of. And that may not happen real soon. I'm hoping I can find somebody I can train and someday say, here's the keys, it's all yours, Junior. Now don't mess it up because I know where you live.
I just love the closeness of the people. I hope to be able to stay here as long as I can.